Now, you might think that divorce is something for the young to worry about, but divorce rates are actually falling for younger people. What's disturbing is that divorce rates have actually risen for those aged 50 to 64 years old. And according to research from Legal & General, these later life divorces now make up to 30% of all divorces. What's even more mind-blowing is that there's been a surge in divorces for the over 65 age group, and that's almost doubled since 1990, making this the fastest growing part of society that's getting divorced. Now, imagine spending 30 to 40 years building up your pension and planning a secure retirement, only to have it unravel because of a later life divorce. Now, many people in later life divorces, they're not just splitting their marriages, they're splitting their retirement income too. Now, sometimes they're going to be cutting their future income by half. So in this week's video, I'm going to walk you through some of the financial implications of a later life divorce and explain what actually happens to your pension during a divorce. Hi, my name's Simon and I'm a chartered financial planner. And if you're new to this channel, a very warm welcome to all of you. We've got more than 80 videos on our growing library covering lots of topics and different subjects in personal finance and financial education, where people have spent over 100,000 hours watching the channel, where we've racked up more than 1.6 million views so far. So last year, I was invited to take part in an expert panel discussion on divorce, which was hosted by Legal & General, to discuss some of their latest findings around later life divorce. So if you'd like a link to that webinar, just let me know in the comments below and I can let you have that along with all the access codes. I'm going to be using some of the research and the data from the Legal & General Later Life Divorce Handbook, which is full of insights and statistics around divorce for the over 50s. Now, divorce is never easy, but when it happens later in life, it can be financially devastating. So in this video, I'm going to go through the ways that a pension can be split on divorce, types of professional help that you can actually get, how DB or final salary pensions are split, and I'm also going to work you through an example of how this works in practice. Now, in the UK, there's a name for these types of later life divorces, and they're either called silver separators or silver splitters. And that's where divorce in this age group is actually rising, even as total divorce rates amongst the younger people are falling. Now, we can all try to guess why this is happening, but maybe it's because we're living longer, we're fitter and healthier, and with retirement lasting 20 years or more, and then suddenly being forced to spend a lot more time with their spouse with different interests maybe, could be that that is just too much to bear. Now, according to Legal & General, 1 in 3 divorces, that's about 30% of all divorces, now happens after the age of 50. And yet only 13% of couples consider the value of their pensions when dividing their assets, whereas 58% of them focus on the value of the family home. What's more, and even more frightening, there's an estimated 280,000 divorces that are currently being delayed due to financial pressures and the cost of living crisis. That means that even more people will be getting divorced if they could afford to. Now, that matches other research from Legal & General, which states that 45% of married couples have delayed their divorce for a significant period of time, either because they decided to wait until the children were older or because they just couldn't afford the divorce process. So I'm now going to look at the 3 main ways that a pension can be split on divorce. So a pension sharing order, or a PSO, is a legally enforceable court order that splits one spouse's pension. Now, the court's going to decide what's a fair split and how that pension should be shared. The PSO is then issued, and then this can then be sent to the relevant pension provider. Now, generally, the pension provider typically has up to 4 months to make the transfer. But from my experience, it's always been an awful lot quicker than that. Now, the pension provider can then set up a new pension with them, or they can transfer that money to another pension provider chosen by the ex-spouse. Now, the pension provider will not make a cash payment to their bank account, as it must be transferred to a regulated pension. Now, this allows both parties to control their own pensions independently, so financially, it's a clean break. Now, pension offsetting is where the court tries to balance the value of one spouse's pension with other marital assets instead of splitting the pension directly. So what that means is one spouse might get to keep their full pension entitlement, but they'd have to give up more of an other asset, such as the family home, which would then offset the value of the pension. Now, this can be attractive when one spouse may need access to the property rather than waiting a long time to claim their pension income later in life. So I'm going to put a quick case study example on screen to explain how this works in practice. So let's say a couple are divorcing and their joint marital assets might include a family home worth £400,000 with no mortgage, cash savings of £50,000, a husband's pension worth about £300,000, and a wife's pension of about £50,000. The whole combined marital assets there are about £800,000. So if we're aiming for a 50-50 split, each spouse would be entitled to about £400,000 of assets. So one possible pension offsetting arrangement could be that the husband keeps his entire pension of £300,000. He has a quarter or a 25% share of the house, which would be worth about £100,000, and that then gives him a value of about £400,000. And that means the wife would then keep 3/4 of the value of the house, or about 75% of the value of the house, worth about £300,000, all the cash savings of £50,000, her own pension of £50,000, and that will give a total for her of about £400,000 as well. So this way, the wife would get to keep more immediate and more accessible assets, whilst the husband would keep his long-term retirement pot. And the third and final option is pension earmarking. And that is very, very rarely used today. But this is when a spouse will get their share or their entitlement of the pension when, and only when, the pension holder decides to take their benefits in their retirement. What this may mean, of course, is that a spouse or an ex-spouse may not get any pension benefits at all if the pension holder decides that they don't want to take their benefits at all and just delays it through their own retirement. So if you're finding value in this subject about pensions and divorce, then please hit the like and the subscribe button, as well as a notification bell, so we can continue to grow our community. So which of these pension sharing options do you think is fairer? Let me know in the comments below. So a PODE is a pensions on divorce expert who is typically an actuary or a specialist who can then calculate accurate pension valuations, including their projected value of their income over time. Now, a PODE is going to be able to calculate the true value of a final salary or a DB pension. They're going to be able to forecast pension income beyond the cash valuation. They're going to be able to help advise whether a PSO or a pension offsetting deal is a fairer outcome for both parties. And they're also going to be able to protect against low valuations or oversharing of assets. Well, this is where it can get just a little bit more complicated. So let's say a spouse has got a DB pension scheme, which is going to provide a secure income of about £20,000 a year from age 65. Now, the scheme administrator has then calculated a cash equivalent transfer value of about £400,000. And the court orders a PSO, a pension sharing order, of 50%. That means we're going to be faced with two possible outcomes. The first option is that the ex-spouse will become a member of the DB pension scheme, and they will then be entitled to their secure income of £10,000 a year when they too reach the retirement age of 65. Or the other option is that the ex-spouse can elect to receive a cash transfer of £200,000 into their pension scheme, and then they can manage the various investment risks and manage all the costs and the charges until they need to take their income from it when they get to their retirement age. Now, I've had multiple requests in the comments to put together a video on final salary schemes or DB pensions. So make sure you do hit the notification bell for next week's video, which is going to be about the 10 myths about DB pensions and whether they are true or false. Now, a lot of these options may seem like common sense, but I think it's useful just to repeat them here for you. First is going to be to boost and to maximize your workplace contributions, and you need to push your employer for matched contributions where possible. Now, you may need to delay your retirement plans a little bit to allow for your pension fund to grow into the future. You can also downsize and use any equity from the property sale to invest into a pension or an ISA or similar for your retirement. Now, depending on your time horizon to retirement, you could also consider taking on a higher level of investment risk to allow the pension to grow faster and quicker over the longer term. And probably the most simple option of all for the future, and that's just to stay single. Now, pensions are often the most valuable yet overlooked asset in a divorce, especially in later life. And some of our pension values can actually be worth more than the value of our main property. So with the rising rates of divorce amongst older couples and due to longer retirements, and generally we're going to be in better health for longer, being aware of your options has never been more important. So if a divorce does impact your retirement income, I've linked a further 2 videos about what level of income you could expect to draw from an average pension in the UK, and what income options are going to be open to you to withdraw that money once you get to retirement. So thank you so much for watching to the very end and for your time and for your patience as always. I'm going to see you all again next week.